Okay.
We're ready.
Okay, everybody can hear all right on the screen? Oh, I see thumbs up from Amanda. Okay, folks, I think our whole committee is here. We'll call to order. I think some changes to the agenda were sent out, some corrections and amendments, and we'll talk about those as we go along. I don't have any other changes. Does committee members want to change anything on the agenda? We have public comment this morning. Anybody here? Don't see anybody in chambers, and Katrina says she hasn't received any interest to do that on Zoom. For my report, I would just like to mention that the committee met an hour ago in front of the dental building, and at 405, I guess 405 is the Red House, North Tioga, to tour those two structures. And I want to thank Arel Lamaro and his staff that were there and guided us through the exterior and interior of those buildings so that we could be better familiar with the condition as our discussion about the downtown facilities continues. Did note that there are a lot of issues with both buildings that need to be considered in our discussion as we go along. Anybody else want to mention anything from the tour? Yeah.
Sure. I just wanted to thank our facilities staff, for maintaining those properties and giving us a tour this morning. And so I think it'll really inform us as we go forward. It's nothing like seeing it, hands on. But my own quick impressions are time's a ticking. We're losing money on those buildings just staying like they are. So I'd like to see something done as quickly as we can.
Anyone else?
I just mentioned Rich John had to move on to some other activities this morning, but was hoping to be.
We were joined by several other legislature tours this morning, Greg Mezzi and Veronica Pillar and Rich.
Particularly.
And of course, our county administrator, Lisa, was there.
And Katrina, our clerk.
Absolutely. She's our stalwart. Well, let's move on to the Department of Emergency Response. We've got a report about the Backup Center Communications Project. Mike, are you here? Who's here?
I am. Good morning, everybody. How are you today? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
So thank you very much for the invitation to come and speak to the committee this morning. With me, I have my colleague, Jack Krantz, who is our project manager. So I'll just start with sort of a very high level overview of where we are in our program. And then I'll turn it over to Jack to talk about more specific details about, where we are in our timeline. So the first thing I'd like to note is that, obviously this backup center project has been in the works for quite a long time, and that Jack and I really feel that we're the stewards of the vision of previous leaders. So I think that, they've really put us in a great place as far as laying the groundwork for us to have made the kind of progress that we've made to date. So I just want to make sure that I note that. With that being said, we do believe that we'll be up and running at the new backup center in December. We feel that that's a comfortable timeline based on some of the setbacks we've had with some of the supply. There is a supply chain issue. And so Motorola, our project partner, has set a date of December. I will say, though, that we are a little optimistic that some of the equipment that we thought wouldn't be coming in for quite a while has actually started to come in. Is that correct, Jack?
That's correct.
So with that being said, our vision is to have, and our goal is to have the backup center operational at the Cornell site by December, which then would allow us to begin the renovation of our existing space here in January or February. So with that said, I will now turn it over to Jack, and we'll talk a little bit about where we are.
Would you just describe, please, where the location is? I know we
Sure.
talked about it before, but there are people maybe
No,
tuning
absolutely.
into this meeting.
Sure, it's 361 Pine Tree Road. It's a small strip mall on the up near Cornell. It's a shared space with Cornell's communications department. And we've ordered the furniture for that space, and that should be coming in June. And once we get that furniture in, I'd love to have the committee come up and take a tour. So you could see it firsthand. And I did supply some floor plans, which were really up-to-date floor plans that we're working off of for not only the backup center space, but also our space here.
Thank you.
Did that help?
Yes, it did.
Okay, wonderful. So again, I'm going to turn it over to Jack, and he'll give us some more finite details.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? I'm sitting back a little bit from the mic.
Well, you're kind of faint, so speak up.
Okay, let me move forward. Actually, I'll move into Mike's chair for just a second. That better?
Yes.
Okay. As Mike said, this has been a long-term project started with previous directors. And we have phased it into several sections to prepare for occupying the backup center. We had to do some enhancements and adding redundancy. We currently are almost done with our first enhancement of the backbone microwave system that connects the radio towers to each other and back here. And that enhancement allows us to also connect to the Pine Tree Road location with a microwave link to serve as communications between us and them, along with a fiber link between here and Cornell. So we'll have the redundancy there. As Mike said, Motorola is indicating a end of the year being operational. They have been very good so far with supply chain issues and getting stuff in here and online. And we are anticipating our first major change next week on that microwave system, changing it to a communications standard that allows us to make the connections into the backup center. As Mike said, furniture into June, beginning of July at the Pine Tree Road location. Motorola is indicating that they will be shipping the equipment for that location July-August timeframe to be doing the installation throughout the fall to be, as we've said, knock on wood, operational by the end of the year. So several phases to this project, knock on wood, they're all going in line, in order, and on time, and we hope that it will continue that way.
Jack, would you mind just touching a little bit on the Vesta piece of this
Okay.
and explain what Vesta is and why that particular phase of this project is not only going to connect us to the backup center with regards to phone lines, but how that's going to tie in with our partner at Cornell with the 911 lines?
Okay. As part of this project, we are upgrading our 911 phone system. Its product name is Vesta, so we call it our Vesta part of the project. That updates our equipment here that has been here since 2014. It upgrades Cornell's equipment on their dispatch location and adds the appropriate equipment at the Pine Tree Road location to be able to take 911 calls there. We've had our meetings with the Vesta side of Motorola. They are also indicating that they will be shipping equipment late June, beginning July, and they also intend to be operational by the end of the year with that. It gives us a lot of capacity for redundancy and future looking at policies and procedures to decide how we can leverage that with other people to give us redundancy and in case something happens here.
The diagrams that we got in our packet, could you explain what we're looking at with those?
Yes, I can.
Yes, we'll switch. Thank you.
So the diagrams in your package reflects what the floor plan will look like at the backup center. There's one that shows 4 consoles and there's one that shows 3. The 3 is what will serve the Cornell's needs, and the 4 will serve our needs. When we initially started this project, we were looking at roughly 7 consoles that we were looking to put in there just for us. But working with the team and realizing that this is going to be a backup center location, we were able to bring that number down to 4. So we're going to have 4 consoles there, and then Cornell will have their 3. Again, we're going to be co-locating in this backup center in the event that we ever have an actual issue where we're to go dark here on Brown Road. So, but I just thought if I provided you with both those diagrams, you could see, you know, you would really be able to have a nice visual of the partnership and how it will look and how it will dovetail together in that common space with Cornell.
So the Cornell and the county councils are all in the same.
That's correct.
Room, let's put it that way.
That's correct. We'll be in the same room, and our furniture will be in sooner than theirs. And once our furniture is in place, I think would be a great time if you're able to come up and see the space, because then, you know, obviously it would give you a much better perspective. What's really nice about the space that we're going to be using is that it already has a backup generator. However, Cornell is going to be putting in a new one, which is very nice, but there's really no construction that needed to be done in the space. We're using the space as is. So there's a large room that reflects where those consoles are going to go. And then there's 3 smaller rooms off to the side. And those rooms will be used for, you know, primarily for like, one will be an IT room with racks and the other 2 will be for supervisor space. But it required absolutely no construction in this space. So that was a significant cost savings as well.
How is janitorial service, for example, going to be handled up there?
It's a great question. So that's all going to be provided by Cornell. That's part of the partnership. So they'll be providing that, and they'll be taking care of all the actual facility needs. So we'll be responsible for our 4 radio consoles and furniture. But outside of that, they're covering the expenses for the space right down to the electric.
Great. Randy?
Yes, thank you. So is all the IT that we have down here in Ithaca, is that going to be the backup for them as well?
I don't know the answer to that question. I will certainly have to research that. But what I will say is that as part of this project, we are running fiber from here to the backup center and then down to downtown, which will provide us another level of redundancy that we wouldn't have had we not started this project. And that's being done as we speak. I think they're going to be rolling that out, actual install second week of May. But I'd have to get an answer to that question because I'm not sure I can answer it. Unless, do you know the answer to that, Jack? Okay.
No.
Yeah. So let me write that down.
Ann?
Thank you, Michael and Jack, for the update. It's great to hear that there's a project, you know, that's on time and that every materials and supplies are coming in, you know, because as you know, we're hearing lots of supply chain issues across the world, actually. And I just wanted to say a quick thank you again for those of us that came up recently, a few legislators that came up and got to sit, you know, with your staff there as they were receiving calls, and to really see, you know, what you do, what areas you cover, how they handle different calls. I mean, it's so complicated. And I don't think people really realize that what goes on behind the scenes when you call 911. And I had been up there 4 years ago, and so it was great to have a refresher on what people do. So, and they were very patient as they explained to us what they were doing. So thank you for that. And they're very professional. So extend our thanks again to the staff.
I will. Thank you for those kind words, and I'll say that the staff was really excited to have you come up and visit, and the other legislators that have come up. So it's really gone a long way. It's really helped boost morale quite a bit. They feel valued, and they really appreciate the opportunity to share their craft. So thank you for making time.
Oh, you're welcome. And I almost forgot, one of the most important things is I noticed you have a popcorn machine up there. So something, you know, we might consider down here for us legislators. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anything else that, Mike, that you'd like to report to us this morning?
No, really just again to extend my gratitude for the support and look forward to having members of the committee come up and view the space as soon as the furniture comes in. I think it will give, again, a completely different perspective, and then I can explain exactly how the workflow will work once the room is done. So we're looking forward to that, and we're hoping that will be in end of June, beginning of July.
Well, this was a nice report. Really appreciate the diagrams that you gave us in advance, and we look forward to coming up and visiting.
Wonderful. I hope everybody has a very nice day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, let's move to airport next. I see Roxanne Noble is here.
Good morning.
Morning, Roxanne. How would you like to proceed? Would you like to report to us and then go to your resolutions, or work through them? How would you like to do it?
I can just give a quick update. So as we know, with the masking, things have gone, yes, no, between the federal government and the state. So just to give an update, currently Ithaca is running with the state guidelines, even though the federal security directive has been canceled. We're running with the state guidelines for transportation facilities, requiring masking at this time. That could change at a moment's notice, as we all learned Monday, things back and forth. But I will keep everybody updated as I hear anything different. Once people are on the airplane, it's their determination by whatever airline they're with, whether they're masking or not. We've had reports that pretty much everybody from Ithaca to Charlotte on a flight this week was masked, but at once the Charlotte to the next leg, nobody was masked. So I think it's going to become, things are going to be changing quite frequently, but that's kind of where we're at. We're masking in the terminal as required by New York State guidelines.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't think I have anything else to report on. We're working on, putting together a survey that's going to be going out. I'm going to reach out to Greg Potter to get support, see if we can send it out to county employees as well, to put together information for our meetings with our airline partners and hopefully new airline partners. So that's something that, we've been busy with the airport and the Air Service Board. We have a new Air Service Board chair, Heather McDaniel. Was voted in this month. So we had a change over there. We had our first meeting with her and everything went really well. So looking forward to that. That's kind of what's been happening here at the airport.
How are things going with the new food service up there?
Absolutely amazing. If anybody hasn't had a chance to come up and have lunch or dinner or order something, please do. They're actually paying us revenue, which is an amazing feat for us. But they're also, it's not that. There's the customer service is beyond top notch. It's a family run business. They take care of, their family, but they take care of passengers. They take care of, internal customers. They take care of airline, staff. If there's a delayed flight, they go above and beyond to, make sure that the passengers are fed. Just been a really great fit, and looking forward to working with them continuously.
I've been there a few times myself and would second everything you said.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to come up and have lunch, let me know. I'll meet you at the terminal, and we can sit and chat and catch up and have a great lunch. Let me know.
Thank you. All right, shall we go to the resolutions?
Absolutely.
All right, we've got resolution A, which is the award of bid, exterior landscaping and snow removal services at the Tompkins International Airport, ID 1035. Someone want to move that? And seconded by Randy. You want to introduce this to us, Roxanne?
Sure. So we've went along with the county bid that also, and we're awarding it to the only one that bid, which was Green Scene. And they provided not only our landscaping services, but because you can't have salt inside the fence at the airport, they provide the salting for our parking lot here at the administration building, for the roadways in front of the terminal, for the parking lot for the employees over there. So it's an on-call basis, really, as far as the salting from Green Sea. So, we never really know. It just depends on the winter on how much they'll be needed. So that's the services they provide. And they've been the ones that provided it in the last contract as well.
Anything else?
Is it in line with previous year's expenditures, Roxanne?
It's up, obviously. The cost of salt, has gone up. Landscaping services went up, like $900 per month. And being the only bidder, really makes it difficult. There's a lot of room to change. It could be something we look at, in the future on any other options that we could do or use, but at this time, this is where we're at.
Randy?
Who does the snow removal of all the parking areas? Is that them as well?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, sorry.
Who does the snow removal of all the parking areas? Is that this company as well, or?
Nope, so All Pro Parking, they clear their parking lot themselves. The airport operations staff does the plowing here for our parking lot. But if there's any salting that's needed, then we would call in Green Sea, because we don't have a piece of equipment, have salt on it, and have to park it outside of the fence. You can't have any type of salt inside the fence.
Thank you.
Okay, we're ready to vote. Randy?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes,
Amanda?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
I vote yes, that's unanimous. Next, we have resolution establishment of an off-airport automobile rental company permit at the Tompkins Regional Airport. That's 10837. Don't want to move that. Randy? Seconded by Lee. Go ahead with that, Roxanne.
Sure. So this is something new. So the next resolution is actually awarding contracts for on-airport rental car companies. Have one rental car company in Ithaca that is not on the airport, but they do gain a lot of business from the up and picking up passengers. It's allowed for us to charge them a fee for any passengers that they would pick up from the airport. It makes it even fair playing field for the rental car companies that are here on the airport. So this is done across the nation, with other airports, and it just makes it, an even playing field for all the rental car companies. They pay a little bit less in their percentage for gross revenues that's gained from the airport. They pay 8%, whereas the on-airport rental car companies pay a maximum or minimum annual guarantee or 10%. And they also pay a CFC charge, which is $3 per transaction day, which that fee will be put into the separate account like the other rental car companies that can be used to repair facilities here, to build a new car wash facility, because that's something that's going to be needed in the future. That goes into a separate account that can only be used for something related to the rental car companies, whether it's, the parking lot where they park their vehicles, something of that nature. So this is something that we decided we needed to put into place. Number one, it will also help generate additional revenue for the airport. As we all know, that's something that's needed, especially through this pandemic and the loss of revenue that we've been experiencing. So we worked with our financial consultants to put together this information and just looking at adding this to revenue for the airport.
I didn't hear that last. After you.
Yeah. So just adding additional revenue, it will help the airport with additional non-airline revenue, which is something that, is one of the things that one of my goals is to look at increasing non-airline revenue for the airport as much as possible.
Thank you.
Overall. Yeah.
Let me just ask a quick question, then I'll get Ann. How many car rental companies are operating at the airport now?
So we initially, Avis and Budget operated together, and then we had Blakesley, which was Hertz rental car, but Blakesley took over as a private owned company. They held 2 counters, but we had space for 3. When we went out with the RFP for the rental car, initially Enterprise was calling, they really wanted to become on airport. worked to try to get it so we could have 3 companies. Josh reworked all the parking spaces. I mean, it was a lot of effort. And then Enterprise ended up not bidding. But on a positive side, Avis and Budget bid as separate companies. So we will now have it as 3 rentals at the airport. They'll rent 3 counters, so there'll be additional revenue there. We're able to keep the small company, which is Blakesley, which is, a small owned company. He'll be able to stay on the airport. So we'll have those 3 airport rental car companies.
And
Thank you, Roxanne, for the information. I was wondering, so as far as the off campus or off airport rental company, so someone would call or somehow contact the, say, Enterprise and have them come up and, pick them up and give them a card to rent. And so is there any way to actually track that? Or we take them at their word?
We take them at their word. So a lot of people are doing, a lot of people rent cars now from Enterprise and think, Enterprise will come up, pick them up, or leave a car in the parking, or, however it works. So it's taking them on their word, but a lot of rental car companies operate this way. So I think, it's already in their financial systems of how they would track, whether it's airport revenue. And I think, we could probably, tell if we, had staff that could watch for that, but I think we have to just, trust in the system. And I think any revenue we get additional will be a positive,
Right, it's more than we were getting before.
Correct.
Right. Okay, thank you.
the questions? Ready to vote? Randy?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes,
Amanda?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
I vote yes. That's unanimous. For the next one. Award contract for rental car concession at the Tompkins International Airport, 10838. Move that. Ann? Seconded. Lee? Okay. Go ahead, Ann. Roxanne.
Sure. So it kind of follows along. This one, their contracts were due to expire actually a year and a half ago, but with the pandemic, we were able to extend them through June 30th. We again went out for proposals, got all the information from the rental car companies, put together, what we were looking for, what we were allowed to charge. So they pay, each of them had set a separate minimal annual guarantee. So the MAG, so they will guarantee to pay us that annually or 10%, which is ever greater. So Avis, looking at theirs, it's 75,500. Budget is 70,500, and Blakesley / Hertz is 50,000. So that's the minimal amount we will get annually. But if it's above that, which, as things increase, we're hoping it does. Rental cars is usually a very good non-airline revenue for us. So we're looking forward to getting contracts in place with this company. The CFC charge we put in place last year has been great. The account's growing. We really need to replace the car wash facility. So we'll be able to use the funds that are in that account to replace that, to update it, to make it more, economically usable and friendly. So those are just things that are happening. So we'll have Avis, Budget, and / Hertz here at the airport.
Questions? Ann?
I know some people in the community are concerned, with the debt that the airport needed to take on with the renovations. And so I've heard you talk about, and Mike before you, about how the charges, the PFC charges are covering that. So they're still able to cover that debt load. Plus you're saying no?
We, with the loss of passengers, it's going to be difficult. That's why, we're working hard with our airline partners to increase the passenger numbers so we get our PFC collections back up. So it's based on enplanements. at $4.39 per passenger. With the pandemic, it really struck us hard, in our PFC revenue. We have a new PFC application that's been put together. We're working on that to cover projects that, we need to, and the terminal project is part of that, but we need to, offset our revenue as much as we can to be able to cover the debt that we can't cover with PFCs.
Okay, yeah, if that's something you could keep us informed on, as time goes by, just keep us updated. So we're hoping the, number of claimants rise, to help cover that cost. And you said we're still waiting on, I know that's been a long time coming, and trying to raise the charge or the employment charge, right? Because that still hasn't been raised.
Correct.
Okay.
I'd love to see it, double. It's been going back and forth, but right now, there's nothing definitive on that. I'm constantly, hoping for that and reaching out and, in support of it. But right now, I think, one of my main goals that Josh and I have both been working on diligently is, working with our airlines, getting flights back, trying to get additional service. We're going to a conference in June to meet with low-cost carriers as well as our current airline partners, hopefully adding additional service there.
And if that raised up to $8, say, or eight something, would that be commensurate with other airports, regional airports such as Elmira?
So if that raises up, it'll be nationwide. The PFC.
Oh, nationwide. Okay.
Yep. The PFC is it's for every passenger, every airline, every person. It's a federally set fee.
Okay, so it's set across the board, across the nation. Okay, great.
Correct.
Didn't know that.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else on this? Ready to vote? Randy?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
Lee? Yes. I'm yes. It's unanimous. What do we got? Resolution D, establishing an air carrier incentive program at Tompkins International Airport, 10873. Who's moving that? Amanda, I can see your hand. Is there a second? Randy?
I'm happy to move it, but you never look up at me, so.
I do. I have been looking. Okay, been moved and seconded. Can you talk to us about this, Roxanne?
I can. So the FAA has regulations and requirements in place that if we as an airport wanted to work with our airlines to gain new service, so say, like right now we have our 3, air carriers that go to, Detroit, Newark, and Charlotte, which will be going to Philly soon. So if they give us an additional flight to one of those airports, we can't work with them. We can't negotiate. We can't try to make any, deals. We can't say to them. But if they offer us new service, or if a new airline comes in, say a low cost carrier, we can work with them to waive landing fees, to reduce rental fees, to offer them an incentive to come into the market to see if they will be able to make it work so we can work together. So the FAA just requires us to have this approved so that in the future, if we do have a new airline, or if one of our current airlines wants to fly to Chicago or something, we can sit with them, work with them to try to come up with a package that will work. I've had a lot of people say to me, well, if you're waiving fees, how is that going to help your revenue? Well, initially, we won't have that revenue, but we will have the revenue from parking. We will have the revenue from rental cars. We will have the revenue from the cafe. We will have the PFC charge that we need to help cover our debt service. So we can do this. Fees can be waived for up to 2 years. A lot of times it's only done for a year. A lot of times it can be 6 months. It just really depends on the service, the amount of flights, what they're looking to offer. We actually spoke to a couple of low-cost carriers. Again, we're meeting with them. There's a lot of leisure travel. There's people that want to do leisure travel. So we're also looking at marketing that, not just the business travelers. So the leisure market would help us sustain, passenger employments, help them grow. And it won't have an effect necessarily on our current legacy carriers. They may lose a few passengers on the legacy carriers, but a low-cost carrier is a completely different ballgame. It's a different type of airline. They don't have the connectivity. It's just a flight to Florida or a flight to South Carolina. And a lot of people that we've talked to, that we've met with, we believe that this survey will help us with, has indicated that they want to travel. They want to go to Florida and take their family, and they necessarily can't afford to pay the prices from the legacy carriers that may be charging. So they're driving out of the market to do this. The fact that one of the thoughts I have is if we get a flight to Florida, I think, Tompkins County is absolutely the most beautiful place, and especially in the fall, springtime, get people from Florida to come up here to visit the wineries. So there's marketing opportunities there. So these are things that we're looking at. And by having the air carrier incentive program, regulations in place, we can negotiate with them. I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't, without speaking to the legislature, getting approval there, because that's necessary. But it just allows us to be able to do it if something works, and we don't have to worry about then going for this resolution and then the next resolution.
Questions on this? Randy?
Thank you, Roxanne. So if you do find another carrier to come in for this incentive, it has to be approved by the legislature once the deal is completed. Is that correct?
That is correct. If we're going to offer them a deal, if we're going to offer them, waived fees, it was something that I would bring to the ledge to, and how it would look financially for the airport, what we would, be looking at doing, what, their thoughts are. I would bring it to F&I and then the full ledge to state that, this is what the airport's doing for, say, Spirit, if they come into Ithaca. Transparency, just let you know that, this is the deal we're looking at, doing with Spirit. They've agreed to it. It's something that we can feasibly do. I would work with our financial consultants, because there's a lot of stipulations in this incentive program, and I'd be happy to send you the link from the FAA's website that goes into detail on how this works and what you can offer, what you can't offer, and how it works as far as you can't, increase the charges to the other airlines in order to offset this airline. So there's some different ways that this has to be done, but I would definitely bring it back for approval.
Thank you.
Anything else? Ready to go ahead and vote? Go the other way. Lee?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
I vote yes. Did you think there was another resolution, Roxanne?
No, I just had the for information only for budget, so I don't think I have to stay on for that if everybody's good with everything else. If they have any other questions on airport general information, but also reach out to me anytime, send me an email, give me a call. I'm happy to answer
Are we gonna let Roxanne go?
it.
You're welcome to stay, Roxanne. We always like to have you.
Well, thank you. I enjoy being here.
Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
I think I skipped Lisa. I apologize. Administrator's report.
Thank you, Mike. I just have a very brief report to say that would be relevant to F&I committee members, and that is the beginning of the month on April 6th, we launched the capital budget planning process with our departments that are part of the capital program. So many of the departments that report to F&I, as well as ITS, planning, others that have capital programs we have formatted and opened up the database for departments to enter in their plans for capital projects for the next 5 years, but specifically in preparation for the 2023 budget process. And they're working this month to do that by the end of the month. And I've asked for specifics around what they foresee in terms of increased costs for materials, increased time needed due to supply chain issues, and how that may impact the timing of projects. So be looking forward to receiving those PAR forms and keeping the committee informed as to what that looks like, and having further discussions with those departments coming up in the process, probably around June or so, May or June, to shape up the capital program for the 2023 budget. So that's all I have to say.
It not be a lot of issues, but that capital program is a huge look. I understand that. Anyone else? Thank you, Lisa. Weights and measures.
We had received an email, I don't know.
Yeah, but he was here earlier.
Oh, he was on here?
Oh, no?
I know he's in a conference.
Okay.
He was on, and then he posted in the chat that he had to go to something else.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
we
he
should
gave us
grab them.
fair warning of that, so that's all right. But he did have a resolution he wanted us to act on. It's a contingent fund resolution, appropriation from the contingent fund and budget adjustment, weights and measures, 10870. That is the unused personnel time was paid out due to COVID.
I'll move it, Mike.
Is there a second? Seconded by Ann. Lisa, is there any comment from you on this one?
I don't have.
But we aren't talking millions here. Ready to vote? Randy?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes,
Amanda?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Unanimous. Smith is here. Sure, I saw him. There he is, up in the corner. Morning, Jeff.
Good morning. I couldn't tell if you said my name or not. Good morning, everyone.
Such an uncommon name.
What's that?
Such an uncommon name.
It is. I'm the only Jeff Smith in the United States.
Go ahead. I'm glad to have you here.
Yeah, good to be here. I'm looking forward. Maybe next month I'll come actually be in person. I'm looking forward to doing. Have several resolutions to consider by the committee today. I'll just start going through them, I guess, on my piece, and then if there's any questions, I'm sure you'll feel free to ask me. The first one is Cortlandt Street bridge replacement. This is right in the village of Cortlandt. This was submitted as a application to receive Bridge New York funding, and it was not selected for that. We're looking to accelerate the project. There's no funding being altered or changed or increased. The funding is in place. But when we noticed the actual year to start the project, it was next year, and we're hoping to accelerate the project into this year. And that would take a resolution to change the capital plan. There's a few good positive reasons for that. One being that it's likely that there'll be a fair amount of right-of-way taken for this. It's like I said, in the village. I'm not saying a large amount of right-of-way. There probably won't be, large square footage, but there could be several parcels. And of late, that has been the major cause of delay on many projects that we've seen. And also, and this is kind of a later one that I realized, but this could possibly put it in the right time frame. I feel like right now we're looking at some congressional directed spending. It's a very short time frame for that. This could push this project, if that's something we're going to start seeing annually, which is likely. This could get this into what you would call a shovel-ready project, where it's designed and ready to go. And had we had a project in that at that stage when this last round presently is going on, we could have selected it. But not having one, there was no bridges we did submit for. Working with administration, we did submit for a couple preservation overlay projects on a couple roads, but in the one of the restrictions in the congressional directed spending is it has to happen during one federal fiscal year, which is October 1st to September 30th. And as I'm sure everyone is aware, you're not going to design a bridge and build it in that time frame. So be critical to be shovel ready, and that's a hope possibly that we could have this project in that condition if it gets offered again.
Thank you for that. Can we get it on the table? And I will note it's in the village of Groton.
I'll make the motion.
At least moving it. Is there a second? Seconded by Ann.
Amanda,
Seconded by Amanda. I see your hand, Ann. But Ann was up first. We'll do Amanda. Okay, this is the resolution to amend the capital program for the Cortlandt Street Bridge replacement in the town of Groton. Discussion about this. Lee.
Just a question for you, Jeff. You alluded to some needs for right-of-ways or easements. Are you envisioning any encroachment on the properties or expansion of the footprint, or just bringing it into modern compliance?
I don't think that it's going to be getting into any major impact to any of the businesses in the area. I think what I say cautiously is that the footprint of the right of way is likely going to have to be expanded in like the four corners, probably for some retaining wall, wing wall type application, which isn't existing at this time. Now the structure is made of two large culvert pipes and sheet piling, and it really just kind of ends at the road edge. It doesn't kind of embrace some of the banking that's required along the lumber mill on one, or the lumber yard on one side, and then I think it's an apartment building on the other. So in order to get in those areas and work in those areas, we have to establish a permanent easement so that we can get back in there and maintain it for years going forward as well. I don't think it'll get into too large of an expansion of a footprint more than what you see there. Back in the day when they did this stuff, they just did it. Everybody was okay with it. It's likely what's there now is actually outside of the true right of way, if you would.
Yeah, there's a history of flooding down through there, and they probably would welcome some of that shoring up when you get done. So it probably would help things in the longer term.
Questions? Not about the project, Jeff, but you said something that reminded me of something about not having a bridge ready to go, that we weren't in a position in the past where we weren't able to take advantage of something because we didn't have a bridge ready. Years ago on this, we tried to have a policy, and we called it a bridge on a shelf, because back that time, as I recall, something came up that prevented us from building the bridge we had intended that year. It got pushed over a year. And had we had another one ready to go, we could have slotted it in. And we were then requesting that there always be a bridge ready. And we called it the bridge on the shelf, so that the engineering could be done and we could slot it in, or if it came up to the proper time, then we just have it to go with that bridge. Is that happening anymore, or have you ever heard of that?
I've never heard of it that the Tompkins County had that going on. It doesn't surprise me. That seems to be for many years now a very common term used by a lot of project funding that comes out. It seems like it's always a big rush. Even Bridge New York has a pretty defined timeline, and it's pretty tight timeline as well. You can't really sit on it for very long to get to accomplish what they're asking for you in the allotted time frame. I think it's a great idea. I think that this project is an example of that. We haven't seen, I like the term congressional directed spending. I don't know that I've seen that in quite some time, where the Albany, our representatives in Albany are getting, or Washington are getting direct control of funding that they can push out to the local communities. I think that's kind of the right direct definition of that. Normally it's always been through an application project through Albany. That's kind of the Bridge New York program. We lobby for CHIPS, we advocate for CHIPS funding, that sort of thing. So I feel like that there's a lot of interest and discussions about the new federal transportation dollars that are coming out. It may be a good time. I don't know that I could say for sure right now to have an idea or a goal to have a shovel-ready bridge project. Right now, we're really just trying to get, move the bridges that we have. This being one of them, Etna Lane going to construct. We're quite busy. We don't always get everything we want to do. So to add it on, it would take some work. But I'd also want to know that the project is going to continue. And I feel like this project that we're discussing today is a great kind of out of the hole, could be our bridge on a shelf concept that you discussed, Mike.
Maybe we can talk more about it at another meeting. Or you maybe
Yeah.
talk about it a little.
Sure. It'd be nice to know if it's what we're seeing with that congressional directed spending, that it could be actually a thing in the future. I'm getting our, across the state from our association members are kind of feeling that way. But I'm not sure. So it'd be good to know a little more about that too.
Thank you for your response on that. I want to point out that we're moving the revised version of this resolution that has the capital account number added to it. Ready to vote? Yes. Amanda?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
I'm yes. That's unanimous. Okay, the next one is authorization to execute a contract with Barton and LaJudas for the design services for the Cortlandt Street Bridge over Wasco Inlet in the town of Groton.
And that's the revised version of that too.
Yes, the
right?
revised, thank you, Ann, there is. And I think that has a revised figure in it, no? Count number, yes, that one also has a revised count number added to it. Lee is moving it, is there a second? Seconded by Ann. Discussion on this one, you want to talk about it?
Sure. It's related to the last resolution that was discussed. It's the same structure, the Cortlandt Street Bridge over Owasco Inlet. This firm has done a lot of work for the county in the past. They're a very qualified firm. Our interest in continuing the work with them on this particular project is that they worked at the time of the Bridge New York application process. We asked certain interested consultants that have worked for us in the past and are also on what's called our local design services agreement, LDSA, to provide us and help us with the bridge application. So Barton LaJudas is the firm that helped us with the bridge application for Bridge New York for this bridge. So combining all those aspects, we decided to ask them to provide design services and get the project underway.
Questions? Ready to vote? Randy?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes,
Amanda?
Yes,
Lee?
Yes.
I'm yes. Okay. Now we're going to the Podunk Road Bridge, a resolution to approve a funding agreement with New York State Department of Transportation. Replacement of the Podunk Road Bridge over Deganic Creek, town of Ulysses.
and that's a revised one too, I think.
No, I don't think so.
That one's not.
I think the next one is revised.
Oh, okay, sorry.
One in the packet. Ann, are you moving that?
Sure.
Is there a second? By Randy. Oh. I'll discuss the Podunk Road Bridge with us, Jeff.
Sure, be happy to. I didn't know if I was going to get that opportunity. It was going so smoothly. This is a Bridge New York awarded bridge, 95% paid through that grant. And so 5% local cost. This is the first step in the process. This will establish our ability to sign the county administrator to sign a state local agreement so that they'll make the funding available to begin the process of the project.
Ann?
So Jeff, as you know, that's just around the corner from me. And as you know, again, that's a steel deck, narrow steel deck bridge, which is, wide enough for two cars, but hardly ever do two cars go over it. It's kind of scary and it's at a turn. Well, so I'm glad to see that that's on your schedule to put a new bridge in there, and glad that it's not going to be a steel deck. And is that you said it, I think before it was going to be a little wider. Is that correct?
That's correct. It'll be wider. There'll be a continuous shoulder. I think it's a minimum of 4 feet. It could be 5 or 6 feet, depending on what ends up, going in there. But it'll be a nice wide shoulder for pedestrians to cross, in addition to the 2 lanes. The project is also planning to take a little right of way and align take the alignment as a corner that you're talking about, actually straighten that corner so the actual structure will be upstream or to the west of the existing structure. That'll be, I think, in my mind at this time, although I haven't seen any plans, will allow for the existing structure to continue in service while they're building the new structure upstream, kind of alongside, and then they'll kind of build the approaches to match the bridge after it's built. I think that's going to be a really big improvement in that area.
Yeah, I think just from a layperson's point of view, I think it'll increase the safety there. I know when I've driven over there and there's been some rain, even my car can go one way or the other on the steel deck, and never mind, I'm also a motorcycle rider, and it's always scary going over steel deck bridges. So glad to see. I mean, I like the aesthetics of steel deck bridges, but for safety, I think, especially helping with that curve, there's been some accidents in that area over the years. So I'm really glad this is on the agenda for this year.
Yeah. Existing structure, we've done a lot of work to maintain it, to keep it at the posting it's at now. A lot of the steel members have been replaced over the years. It's been quite a bit of work for us to keep it where it's at. The iron and the salt doesn't go together very well.
No, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're ready to vote on this one. Lee? Yes. Amanda?
yes,
Ann?
Yes,
Randy?
Yes.
I'm yes. Okay, now we go to D. which is the revised version with the addition of the account number in it. And it is a design service contract with Labella Associates, placed on the Podunk Bridge, the Deganic Creek, the town of Ulysses. So I want to move that. And a second? Second by Amanda. I can see her hand up. Thank you. Go ahead on this one. Jeff?
Yeah, this is the getting in place the design services agreement with Labella Consultants, as it says. Labella has done work for us in the past. They've done a very good job. One of which recently was Central Chapel Road that they completed, and the project went really well by using them. They're also on our local design services list of 5 consultants. And then they also were the consultant firm that we asked to help us with the Bridge New York application. So it makes sense. They're the most familiar with the site out there. They're the ones that were proposing straightening the curve and some of the design dollars that would be required to do that. If you can see, this project is quite an expensive project. It was a great thing to be awarded this grant and get the improvements that are being proposed out at that location.
Ready to vote? Randy?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes,
Amanda?
Yes,
Lee?
Yes.
I vote yes. Okay. We've got a capital payment summary report, Jeff, from you folks for the Etna Lane and the Central Chapel Bridge projects. Is there any questions on those or anyone? From anyone?
If I could, I was reviewing this prior to the meeting, and if you get looking at that document, that page that you have in front of you,
Package
it's
page 28.
what's that?
It's our package page 28.
Okay. The word I can use for it is it's all discombobulated. That's a technical term. I got looking at it, and I think the columns when it was printed just got shifted, and unfortunately I didn't catch it when it was submitted. We scrambled and we were able to produce a correct document with the correct numbers. That can be, I've shared that with Kathy. Kathy can share that with all of you right after the meeting. She has the corrected document. And if you have any questions on that corrected document, please let me know. But the original document that was submitted again was the columns were all shifted, and it's hard to read. There's actually dates and places that there should be dollar figures. And what we've done is produce the correct numbers, and we have it waiting for you right after the meeting. I apologize for that.
So the numbers for like the current payment due have changed?
The current payment columns are correct. The contract amount is lower than what it should read there. The numbers that are there, and I don't have the old document in front of me, but the numbers that are there only include the design. It doesn't include the design and construction inspection piece. So the actual contract amount, you'd have to add those two together. And that's one area that was, and then on the paid to date columns, on the top 2 project Etna Lane Bridge sections, the second date carried over into that block, so you can't even see the correct dollar figure paid to date. So there's several things that are not accurate, and like I said, we scrambled, we fixed it. I'm looking at a corrected document in front of me, and we'll be able to get that in your hands.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Yeah. So
are we all okay with that, with Jeff's explanation? Okay, that's fine. Thank you, Jeff, for that.
especially with the technical term, the discombobulation. I
thought that was a legal term.
well, now we know it's an engineering term.
its use spans many professional areas.
An accounting term, so.
Yeah.
Jeff, we're going to go to the capital highways or the quarterly capital status report second. But I wanted to mention and say thank you. I had a contact from the Freeville Fire Chief and a resident in the Freeville area concern about the Mill Street Bridge in the Freeville, which is an older one-lane bridge, and the condition of it. Jeff went out and looked at it. I went out and looked at it the day after you did, Jeff. And I kind of concurred with what you said. It looked to me like some issues with the wearing surface on the bridge. And thank you for responding to those folks about the bridge. I guess my only question would be, where is that on our replacement schedule?
I initially, when I saw the theemail, that's where I went. And we're working on that. I don't have a good answer for that right now. But I didn't get very far. There's a new program at the state. It's called Bridge. It's BDIS, and it's not very user friendly. So we're in the process of establishing like a top, 100 list of bridges on condition and traffic and things like that. I don't have that whole list to really say. I know that of the bridge work we've done in the last couple of years, that bridge would likely have moved up on a priority basis. Looking at the specific bridge, I don't see there being any big problem that would cause urgency, only if the fact that it's one of the worst top 10 bridges in our county. I have a top 10 list, and we've done about 7 of them, or will do about 7 of them in the near future. So I know there's a couple more at least ahead of this one. We also look at, how many users, the distance of a detour route should the bridge be closed. There's other factors. We have kept up on it. We have done some maintenance in the last couple of years, been under it, things like that. We are going to get those potholes, if you will, that are actually down to the concrete slab, those will be repaired as soon as the weather allows. I don't have a real good answer for you, but I am working on that, and I will share that with the committee when I get that list myself.
Thank you for that, and look forward to seeing whatever information you can get us. And I think the Freeville Fire Chief also asked for what the weight limit is on that bridge, because he was wondering about fire trucks.
Yeah, I got that this morning. I want to give him a better answer than it's a legal load limit. To real quickly, all bridges are rated at HS 25. That's 25 tons, so that's 50,000 pounds. That's anything over the road is legal. The truck he's talking about is 55,000 pounds. When you start getting into fire apparatuses and the axle distances of the axles and things like that, I would want to know more about that actual vehicle, and then we would have either an engineer in the house or a consultant take a look at that and give us kind of go ahead or maybe not. I know in a pinch I would drive a $55,000 fire or $55,000. Wish they were that cheap. 55,000 pound fire apparatus over a bridge that could handle a 50,000. It's a small difference. The wheel spacing is quite long, if you would. But I want to get a better answer for him. And we did this recently with Lansing Fire Department, where we get a good information list of what vehicles they have in their fleet. And then we kind of go through that based on what's the bridge that they're concerned about. So I will respond to him in that way. And
thank you for that.
Yeah.
That's very, very good of you. Okay, let's go to the quarterly report, and want to walk us through this one?
Sure. I'm just going to flip pages, and if someone has a question or at the end has a question, please let me know. First page we've been talking about quite a bit already today. At Etna Lane Bridge, we had a pre-construction meeting. The areas of red are actually completed at this time. It was last month. We approved those resolutions, and we had a pre-construction meeting with the state, the contractor, and our inspectors yesterday. Their anticipated start date is May 20th with a completion date of October 28th. We will know a little bit more information as that date gets closer. It may get pushed off a little bit based on the delivery of the steel. They're working with a steel manufacturer and they expect the raw material to get to the steel manufacturer around that time. And if there's some delay of raw material, then we'll be able to possibly, hopefully not, but keep the bridge open longer so that we don't see more delay on the other end. That's what we're seeing with bridge construction lately, is that there's just a large slowdown with raw material getting to the steel to produce the beams. And then there's also a backlog at those producers. And we're just working closely with that. There was a lot of discussion yesterday about that. But those are the dates that they plan to begin the project, close down the bridge on May 20th, and then be complete by October 28th. Next project, East.
Go
All
ahead.
right. Okay, sorry. East Hill Intersection Safety Improvement Project. That is all awarded and bid. Bid and awarded. It was will be beginning this spring. We just inquired to our consultant CNS as to if they'd heard anything on a start date. But remember, prior to a few months ago, they were anticipating around June 1st going in there and doing that. Very, very, very quick project. It's like $300,000. It's a crosswalk project right by the Burger King area of Ellis Hollow. I did notice something on this page, but I saw Station Road Streams Restoration. We are moving and looking to do that this year. I see the date is anticipated for next year. We've been working with DEC pretty close recently. We do have procurement of if you look in some of the older information, procurement of the boxes that are going in there. We're just really kind of working with DC to get a good stream permit established so that we can begin that work. Bostwick Road, we are.
Any questions, just sing them out. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Bostwick Road.
Yeah, Bostwick Road. That's some funding we had for a large sewer drain. I, worked with a committee to let them know we were going to make some other area, I should say stormwater drain, make some other area improvements around the facility. A lot of interest over the years in working and improving our employee parking lot. We've done that. Mostly we did the binder course. We still need to do a top course. We're also going to do some more paving down in behind our garage and some areas that we have some ponding of puddles when we get heavy rain and things like that. We're looking to do that this summer. The next page is a culvert project, Bridge New York. We've been working with the state. This is really getting bogged down to get through the right-of-way phase. There's just been a lot of issues on some small little parcels of land in and around these culverts. In hindsight, I think we all feel that lumping them all together in one project may not have been the best thing because you have to keep them all in the project. So they all have to complete the right-of-way phase in order to progress into the PS&E and bid phase. So that right-of-way phase, there's a couple culverts where they've run into some really long delays that have complicated with some right-of-way taking that's necessary to get the project into the next right-of-way or the construction phase, a bid phase. They are at that point. These were supposed to be built already. To give you an idea of time frame, last year, at this time, the sense is that even if they were to bid them at this time of the year, that because they're all the design is all precast design, that the delay of we'd want to get that all awarded to a contractor to give them a long lead time in order to get those precast concrete units ordered for a delivery of 23. So at this point, there won't be any construction in 22. And I can, just hope to keep you updated. There was some discussion of kind of dividing and creating new pins and things like that. And with the DOT people, and they were, their heads were spinning around. It was kind of like poltergeist. They didn't like that. I guess there's a lot of paper, just a lot of things that would cause trickle down problems across their region if you were to start doing that. It is still a possibility, but we haven't heard anything after that last meeting a month or so ago. It was a phone Zoom meeting, but we expect to continue along. We'll see where it goes. We're very anxious to get these done, but maybe we'll be taking 2 at a time that are complete, get them to construction, and the other ones will follow or something like that. That was kind of what we were proposing.
Jeff, I wanted to ask, will these all be bid to one contractor or will they be bid separately?
I think that I'm not positive about that, but I think that there'll be, it could be split the way that they'll do the award. But they want to do what's best and keep the numbers as low. The idea at the beginning was, yes, it would be multiple contractors, but I'm not sure of that. If they're going to lump them together, if that'll be able to be awarded that way, it may just be a one price for all 6 at the bottom will be how it's awarded. I'm not positive on that. We really haven't gotten to that discussion, but I'm anticipating by our last conversation with the state that they don't want to divide them at all. And based on that thought process and your question, I would expect that it'll be one contractor, but I'm not sure.
Randy?
Thanks, Jeff. You mentioned right-of-way issues quite a few times here. What are the primary issues? Is just the property owner not wanting to cooperate, or what's the delay?
There's a couple, and they have to do with settling estates. It has to go one I know has to go through probate, and the other one is in kind of an estate situation where they have to determine who would actually receive and take ownership and then be able to sign off ownership to us. So one is the one on the Coddington Road, and the other one is on Conlin Road in Lansing.
And who fosters that process for the county? Is that our county does that, or how's that?
Yeah, so this project was when it was awarded, there was an option to have the state be the project manager on the project. So the state, just like us, hired a consultant engineer, and then that consultant engineer through a sub-consultant hired right-of-way services be done. So Bergman is the engineer working for the state, and then RK Height is the name you hear quite often. They are doing the right-of-way work on the 6 culverts. So again, we're the sponsor, and then the project manager is the state. So it's a little bit different. We don't have, typically what we do with most of these projects, it's called a pass-through project, where we're the project sponsor and we're the project manager. We hire the consultant. We are very key, and we're passing resolutions through the whole process up to awarding the low bid. In this case, the state will do all of that.
Thank you. I see they're paying for all this. I guess that makes sense.
Well, they're paying for all of it, but the estimates, just to point out, since you brought that up, it's about the award for all 6 was like a little bit excess of about a $3 million grant award. The I think is partly to blame, which is kind of out of our hands, but seems to be a good, reasonable reason. But process and just different engineering estimates from Bergman has pushed that up to almost 5 million. So that now we're at 1.7 million local cost. That's in the capital plan. It's already been approved and everything, but there is some relative cost to the county at this point. I just wanted that to be clear.
Appreciate that.
Okay, want to move on?
Sure. The next page, highway and bridge culverts. If you look down through, look at the red. I'm not sure if all of you have the red as anything that's changed from the last quarterly report. I should have said that at the beginning, but good time to say it now, I guess, if not at all. So if your eyes always draw to the red, those are the new things. You can see in earlier than the meeting today, we've accelerated the Cortlandt Street over Owasco. We're kind of moving that forward. And then the Podunk Road over to Gannett Creek. You can see that the application was submitted, it was approved, and we're working on the DOT agreements. Project closeout summary. We're looking to receive reimbursements on all those projects. So there'll be some payback time coming from the state on these completed projects. Ludlowville, Ellis Hollow Road, Phase 3, Central Chapel Road, that sort of thing. Morel Road, we're looking to go in there and remove the existing truss, relying on primarily the Bailey Bridge that's in place there now, which seems to be doing what's needed for those folks. I think the long range there and the alignment will serve well to eventually put something in the original alignment and something a little bit longer lasting than the Bailey Bridge, but we got some time there. That may be a good shovel ready project down the road to get that to a point and then look for some funding. Just going off the top of my head to the earlier conversation, that could be a good place for that too. That's the last page. If there's any questions, please let me know.
I've got one from Randy and then I think Ann.
Thanks, Jeff. I have a conflict of interest on the Morrow Road Bridge issue. Jeff and I own the property on Morrow Road that is borders that. Jeff and I met out there last year, and I met with Soil and Water out there as well. So I'm not sure how to address that because I have concerns, but it's a conflict of interest, and so how do I handle that?
You seek to gain financially from
Negatively,
negatively?
right? Because of flooding.
This is just a report. There's no vote on this, but I can note that in the minutes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure everybody knew. I'm still concerned there, Jeff. When that temporary bridge was put in, I was told that it would be there for no more than a year. Is this the 5th year now, I think? Maybe, and in my opinion, and everybody who lives in that area, the flooding has increased because of that. It's created a dam. And there's other issues, not just the county, of course. And the town's been out there trying to remedy it on their side, which is kind of worked. So I just have concerns with it. And it's also, FEMA is also, it's in the increase the flood zone area to that area as well on the new mapping. And my mom lives there in the house I own. So I'm just concerned about it. So I just want to share that.
Any response on that, Jeff?
Yeah, I could talk to that. The temporary bridge that we put in is the abutments are behind the original bridge that's there. So if anything is restricting water flow, it's the old bridge. It's not the temporary bridge.
Well, we'll find out, I guess.
Okay, thanks, Randy, for putting it on the radar. Amanda?
Yeah, thanks for all this, Jeff. As I was reading through it, I was remembering about 4 years ago when you took me and my new colleagues at the time out on a little road trip, and I was thinking that might be informative and fun to do again. And I'm guessing that maybe some of our new colleagues would also, I don't know if they've contacted you about that, but that was definitely very educational for me. So I might reach out to you and to my colleagues and see if we could set something like that up again. And I don't want to speak for Annie, but I know she got really excited about all those culverts and would probably like to see some. So
Yeah, that's not a problem. I'm happy to do that. The one site, the accelerated project on Cortlandt Street in Groton is one that we went to.
oh yeah,
We actually did go there. I think that some tools were pulled out of the back of the truck for some photo ops
that's right.
at that point. Yeah.
That was
Yeah, I'm
a
happy to do that.
fun adventure. So thank you. But I think if there's some other things to look at, it might be educational again.
For sure. Absolutely. Anytime. Happy to do that.
Okay, thanks, Amanda, for bringing that up. Ann?
Yes, it came up in Deborah, the picture from 4 years ago came up just this past week on Deborah Dawson's Facebook page, if you want to look at that. And so as Amanda said, I'm interested in culverts. I've installed a couple of small ones on my property, and as a home inspector, drainage and water is like really important. So always looking forward to, if you go out again, definitely I'll try and make it. It was really informative. You took us to the projects that were up. So like, the projects that were going to be in process in the coming year or two. And so that really gave us a good background, so that when you see them on paper here, you're like, oh yeah, I was underneath that bridge and I saw the deterioration, or I saw the embankment, starting to deteriorate. So thank you for that. And I look forward to going out again. And Jeff has also, if you have in your area, Jeff also has come out to meet me at various projects in my municipality too, to explain what's going on. So if you don't mind me saying that, Jeff, he's available.
Not at all.
To do that, to meet you there and explain the various projects.
Sure.
Lisa?
I just wanted to mention, and I was remiss in having forgotten to mention it earlier, and Jeff brought it up, the applications for congressionally directed spending had a very quick turnaround time, and I wanted to extend thanks to Jeff for helping to putting forward some projects for possible funding through those opportunities, those grant opportunities. So Jeff was a big help, together with Terry Carroll and Katie in planning, and Roxanne and Josh for the airport, and Amy Hendricks worked with all of these departments to put together on a very quick turnaround some projects to go for congressionally
Were
directed.
those the earmarked projects?
Yes. Yeah. So,
Thank you, Jeff.
No
Roxanne?
problem. Amy really did a lot of work there. Also pulling it all together.
Right. Anything else for us today, Jeff?
That's it from me. Thank you.
Any more questions for Jeff? Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Bye.
We're going to turn to Dwight Mangle for transportation planning. Morning.
Good morning. Pleasure to be here. I'll warn you that you'll be seeing me for the next two meetings, as we'll have grant resolutions to process.
Always welcome.
Especially for grants.
First resolution we'd like to discuss is the allocating the 2020-2021 Federal Transit Administration 5307 CARES Act, CRISA, and ARPA funding for TCAT, Catabout, and Tompkins County.
Let's get it on the table. Someone want to move that? Randy? Amanda seconds it. Go ahead, talk to us. about it.
Okay, great. First thing that when we applied for and executed grant agreements with the FTA, we had not completely resolved how the funds were going to be used, especially for CRISA and ARPA funding. The CARES Act was pretty much allocated. The first CARES Act grant was allocated to a TCAT, very urgent need. And the Gadabout and the county and TCAT shared with the second CARES Act grant of $2.2 million. That was, we applied to actually New York State DOT for that funding, since that was rural funding, rural transit funding. And the state turned around and gave us an award. But for CRISA and ARPA, the language used in the grant application listed all three entities, TCAT, Gadabout, and the county. And our regular process to collaboratively allocate the funding is what we followed. And the purpose of this resolution is that I really wanted to create and have a permanent record for all of the money that we've received to date. And also to tell you that we anticipate there will be one more award. And that award process will be, I'm anticipating it will start in May. It will be an award by the state in June. And again, similar to the 2020 CARES Act rural formula program, this will also be the rural formula program for CRISA and ARPA funding. The state has about $18.6 million to allocate out of those pots total. So that's the allocations on the first page. And on the, well, that's the total grant awards on the first page, the $18.7 million. That allocation is on the second page. In terms of percent, TCAT was allocated 83.5% of all the funding. Got about 11.6%. And the remaining 4.7 is to the county. I do provide details in explaining about these programs and funding and the county's uses of the funding so far, CARES Act funding. It's 100% federal share for all of the projects. And this funding really enabled not only our transit operators and systems, but frankly, the systems across the whole country to weather the initial impact, loss of revenue, ridership loss, at one point in time, for example, TCAT's ridership declined 90%. And so this extreme event relating to the lockdowns and campuses being closed and everything was definitely felt. At the same time, the federal government wanted to provide resources to enable operators to be flexible and provide targeted critical transportation services relating to the response to the pandemic, and both TCAT and Gadabout did that. I know that at times when testing was very scarce, and Gadabout and TCAT were asked to provide services from communities to testing, and also senior housing, senior centers to testing sites. And the support they provided similar support relating to vaccinations when they were rolled out. And I know that Gadabout also assists, and well, frankly, both TCAT and Gadabout were involved in the in delivery of food to distribution sites. And I believe Gadabout was involved in the delivery of food to households. So it was very, very useful to have these fundings to frankly keep the organizations sustained and their response to the pandemic. I'd like to explain how the county used CARES Act funding. As I said before, the rural formula CARES Act funding was awarded by New York State DOT, and they awarded the county $29,886 for the 2021 Way to Go program that we have a contract with Cornell Cooperative Extension. So that was part of the CARES Act award. The balance was used to pay for transporting people to the county's COVID testing site. And the service was provided by ASAP to CAB, and they were dispatched by 211 information and referral. In late March or very early April 2020, when I was hearing about the difficulty in finding an operator to provide service to testing, contacted all of the taxi companies and asked if we could contract for a service. And the only one who agreed to in the county was ASAP. So we were very fortunate to engage them, and they provided an essential service. Going through the whole pandemic period so far, the last 2 years plus time period, I just really realized that number one, having funding available to use is extraordinarily rare in past years. And so the idea here is for the ARPA funds is that the county would hold $475,000 of the ARPA funds through the end of 2024. So we would have funding to provide services in response to COVID-19 or other eligible public transportation uses in an emergency condition. And on the basis that if unused, the money would be split up 80-20 to TCAT and GAT out to use at that time. So we're really looking here for the county to have a record of the allocations and to accept the award of these funds for the purposes that I've described. I'd be very happy to take any questions that people have.
Very thorough, Dwight. Thank you. Questions? Ann?
Thanks, Dwight, for coming in and explaining this in great detail for us. I find it really helpful. And, discussing, I don't think we could overstate the importance that transportation has, and actually through this, especially through COVID, of getting people to testing and then vaccinations. I know in my community, out in Trumansburg, Enfield, it's just invaluable. And I remember specifically one time with the residents, the seniors and folks with disabilities at Juniper Manor, to be able to, I was helping with the managers, helping to register people, for those things, and then to have the bus come and show up and bring people. I mean, we just such an integral part, and so I'm so glad that you've been able to get so much funding, to keep things going. I guess my only question would be that I guess will kind of be to Lisa, if that's okay. I mean, as far as the finances here, I mean, to me, this makes sense. I don't know if there's any other budget impact or how you feel about it, but to me, this seems more than fair, this setup, as far as putting aside $175,000. If we don't use it, then we give it back to TCAT and GAT.
Agreed. And Dwight convenes the entities involved and keeps them apprised, and hears the feedback from all of the involved entities in terms of the funding needs, et cetera. So I think that this is an accurate reflection.
So we set up like a reserve account at the.
We don't need the reserve account. This is all in the grant that's already been
We
awarded.
just draw it from the grant.
Yes,
Okay, so we don't actually have that 475. We would be able to draw it.
exactly. It's numbers in a computer.
So this is ARPA money we haven't received yet.
Okay. You do not receive money until you've expended money. So all of this money has been awarded. And we have grants, we have executed grant contracts between the county and the FTA. So that means it's obligated. So that's as close enough to receiving it until expenses have been made and they are being, the federal share is being drawn down. And it's through a financial transaction system called ECHO by our county finance department. And then it's sent to TCAT or Gadabout.
Also, Randy, that may get to part of your question too. These ARPA funds are separate from the other pot of ARPA funds which the county received. Yeah.
Yes. And this has been completely a unique circumstance. And that's why going forward, I think that it's very good for the county to be prepared for this period of time, because in the event of almost anything else happening, you can also imagine circumstances where funding is not allocated by Congress. So I'll just say, as a scout leader of like 35 years, be prepared to eat something here. And so when I saw we had the chance to be prepared, that I really wanted to have us be able to do that.
Ready to vote?
I had one more
Yeah.
question. I didn't add up the numbers, but so if the county is 900,000,
Yes,
and so is that minus where it says the county used the CARES Act funding, the 229 and the 195?
right.
So
So
that's then the balance from the 900 minus those two is 475?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
So on that allocation that from CARES Act, Section 5311, the county fully expended the 425,302.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's go. Let's start with Ann this time. Ann?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes. Oh.
Lee? I confused everybody. I started in the middle. Randy?
Yes.
And I'm yes. Thank you. Now we have resolution B, which is a budget adjustment. Go ahead, Dwight.
Yes, and
I just wanted to note that on resolution B, the second whereas, there was a correction to the Cornell Cooperative Extension of Tompkins County amount. It should be 133,224.
Corrected version. Does everyone have that?
No?
No,
There's
that
a
just
correction
came,
to that.
there's a correction to the one that was sent out
Can
yesterday.
you say that again?
It's
Is
133,
this one we just voted on?
No.
no, it's on
The new one,
10B.
Oh, 10B, the next one.
where it
Okay.
says 125,939. That should be 133,224.
133,224. Okay. And then the totals, everything else is correct?
yes,
Okay, thank you.
Hold on, move it. Well, we already moved it, didn't we? Sorry. We haven't moved it? All right, I'm confusing myself. Ann's moving it and Lee's seconding it. Okay, go ahead.
okay, thank you. We need to make this budget adjustment, increasing both the federal and New York State aid and my contractual services line in the budget in order to pay these agencies for expenses that were incurred in 2021. And that's pretty much the explanation. There was a number of delays on part of the agencies and on part of myself that did not enable this to be encumbered the way it would have usually happened. at the end of the county's fiscal year. So we need to do this so we can make these payments.
Ready to roll? Randy?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes,
Amanda?
Yes.
Lee? I'm yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anything else, Dwight? Thanks
That's
for being
it.
here.
Maybe 3 meetings from now, I would like to have some time to have a very short explanation of the status of our federal research and demonstration project.
July? Any problem with that? Randy?
I have one question for Dwight. I'm not sure this is the venue. Who focuses on getting more people to be certified as CDL drivers?
Oh, both TCAT and Gadabout.
I was speaking to a gentleman at BOCES and they ran a program for many years up there. And I think that Travis brought it up as well, of training people for those services. And BOCES does not provide that any longer, it's my understanding. So, I mean, I know there's a shortage. I know that bus drivers are a real shortage,
Very much.
TCAT and for schools.
Right.
So I didn't know if there was any plans to expand that offering. It's a good job for people. People are getting paid more for those jobs. So it's just.
My understanding is that both TCAT and Gadabout will train people to be able to pass and get their CDL. So in older times, everybody was looking for experienced drivers, and they realized a number of years ago that we need to provide the opportunity to train people up to become professional drivers locally. That is what has happened. So thank you.
that's another question I have. So would it be helpful to you, to TCAT, if there was additional training in the community to help CDL drivers or to help folks get their CDL license?
Just speaking on, not for any of the agencies involved, but increasing supply is extremely important. And I know that is why both TCAT and Gadabout went to their policy, their program that's a number of years old. I don't recall how old it is, but of recruiting people and training them.
And when they take their test,
Yeah.
so what you have to go to, where do they have to go to actually take the final test? Is that out of town or Syracuse?
For transit buses, I believe they are going to Syracuse or Binghamton, and that is why in the planning for a what would be included in a potential new facility up by the airport is an area that would qualify for CDL training and testing there also.
Right.
And, you know, Ithaca is centrally isolated. So sometimes that's nice, but not when you have people to take their CDL test in a bus. So having something.
That's in the airport grant request, I think.
Right, so having some additional training with a place
Yes.
like up at the airport to actually provide the place where people could get their, sit for their certificate or license. I would imagine it's a license.
Yes.
So that would be helpful to you and.
Oh, it would
Okay.
be extremely helpful, not to
Okay.
us, but to everybody locally.
Right, okay.
Julie, did you have your hand up?
Yes, sorry about that. This is Julie from TCAT. I was just gonna kind of say too that, you know, any local support that we could get to help more CDL drivers would be excellent for us. We do have a full training program when a driver comes in, whether they're CDL licensed or not, to get them up to speed. We have talked a little bit internally also about working with BOCES to try to get that going again. And like Dwight had said with the airport grant, that is something that we built into that airport grant, is to have a full training facility for CDL up there as well.
I'd add just one more thing. So GAC is looking at starting up another program. So we're just, a couple of us were just thinking it would be great to coordinate that all together with TCAT, the airport, and with GAC. I mean, that's just something that I would like. And it's not a mandate, but I'm just thinking, coordinate everything together.
Makes sense to me.
It's certainly important for our community.
This is Kristen from Gadabout. We actually are not currently training any new CDL drivers. There was a new entry-level driver mandate that was passed down by the federal government, basically requiring anyone who's going to do training to kind of to be certified as the equivalent of a tractor trailer driving school for safety purposes. And it's become cost prohibitive and really time consuming for us to be able to be certified to do that. So any help from the community to get us CDL drivers would be greatly appreciated.
Well, I hadn't heard that before. Thank you for telling us about that, but that's even more impetus for us to try to find ways to get people properly trained by someone who's certified, I guess.
Correct. So your trainer has to be certified. Also, the facility has to be certified, and you have to have testing and so many hours behind the wheel before you can obtain your Class A or B CDL with passenger endorsements.
Jeff Smith.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to talk about just real quickly. We're involved, as you can imagine, in this issue with the CDL. And I've been also talking to our local BOCES, and they do have some interest, and they're well aware. I also am aware there's some opportunity at some area BOCES to have that training done. That's something that would be looking at in our CDL program and candidates and things like that. I'm also been aware that there's some online training that can take the place at least of the section that's required for the classroom side. And so it's hard to know where it's all going, because a lot of the questions really don't have answers yet. But as you can imagine, that's a really big issue. It's really big statewide. It's not a good time in our country to be enacting this type of legislation, in my opinion. But I am aware of it. We are working on it, and I've actually been working with BOCES. I haven't talked with Dwayne, but we have somewhat in certain circles worked with TCAT indirectly, not worked with TCAT, but been in discussions with some of the representatives, understanding that it's an issue for them and school buses also. So getting together and trying to work through similar issues would be great for us as well. Thank you. I didn't want to take up a lot of time.
No, but I would also mention, Jeff, I drove by your sign up at the airport, the electronic sign on Route 13, looking for people to help the highway department. I think it said, "We want you." Amanda, did you want to say something? Okay. All right. Thank you, Dwight.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate all your time
Thank
this
you.
morning. Let's go to minutes. I don't have anything on transportation other than what I reported the other night about the ITCTC meeting.
I'll move the minutes.
Okay, then do the minutes. March 17th, is there a second? Seconded by Amanda. So that one. Any questions or corrections on the minutes? Let's vote. Randy?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
Lee? Yes. I vote yes. Budget adjustments. Any on the information items, any questions on those? Okay, we're at 11 o'clock. I don't know if we're gonna have much time to talk about our tour. Thanks for Arel's come over here. We have any questions for Arel? We wanna extend your 10 minutes, or what would you like to do?
5 minutes.
I'm gonna have to step away pretty quick. Yeah, so I'm kind of tight too. Arel, do you want to bring anything more to our attention?
Regarding the buildings?
Let's certainly put that on for our next meeting. Talk about, but go ahead, Arel.
No, if you had any questions regarding the tour, that's fine. I think we answered a lot of them as we walked through. I am going to move forward and do a hazardous materials survey. I have a proposal, so I'll just move forward. We'll have to do that regardless of what we do. If we make improvements, if we deconstruct, we intend to sell it. It's something we'll have to do anyway, so I want to just get it out of the way. Just a quick update. We did get some initial proposals back on the public safety building. 2 of them were high, to the point that I said, would we either need to go back and you need to either sharpen the pencils. 1 was not the electrical, and so we're going to be talking to the contractors tomorrow. And if that doesn't pan out, or we can't get better numbers, then we would go public bidding. I think I indicated before, we were looking at doing it under cooperative, where it was pre-qualified contractors, and then we basically get proposals from them directly. I think what we're seeing is because of the time and what's going on in the country, there's some uncertainty as far as getting materials and such, but more so working in a secure facility where they can only work in certain areas at a time. They can't spread out the entire area. And so we're trying to really narrow down why their numbers are higher. But if not, then the avenue that we would typically go would be just public bidding. And so that would just add another 2 to 3 months more. Had this gone well, we would have said, all right, let's sign the contract, and then we would have an order of materials. So this may delay, when we had intended to start the project. But we just had our meeting yesterday afternoon, and thought I would share that at least at this point to update you.
Are you able to share how high they are? The bids?
They were high enough that we would not be able to do it without coming to ask for more money. So our total project cost was $3.75 million, and we were already beyond that. And that 3.75 also, we have to pay for architects and engineers. And so there was no way, we would have to reduce it by close to $1 million. So and both myself and our engineers felt that we had done our estimates, that it was high. And so we're trying to go back and see why.
Motion, please.
Okay, I will.
So we adjourn then? Go ahead, Randy.
When the cost of everything's just going through the roof, so that really surprised me.
Yeah.
I think that we should put on our agenda to talk about those buildings over there. Well, I don't like the idea of waiting another month.
Yeah.
You
want to schedule a special meeting?
I don't know if that's necessary, but I just want to maybe get some consensus on what we could do quickly. One of the things I think that should happen is the building should be emptied from everything that is movable. And one of the things is to have reuse come in for the medical building and take whatever they can take, just to keep them empty. But the red building, I think we should make a decision fairly soon to do something with that. And I would propose, after it was empty, that we do a seal bid auction and get rid of it. So that was my thought on that. But I think some things have to be done first there. You have to define the space, how much land space is going to go with it. Maybe there's some zoning issues or whatever that are required by that. But I just don't like the idea of waiting too long for those properties.
I don't think any of us thinks we want to wait too long before we decide what we want to do. Ann?
Yeah, I concur with everything that my colleague just said. And just, so I'm glad you're going ahead with the, what is it called, environmental
Hazardous materials
survey. And so you don't need our approval, you can just go ahead and do that. And then had we asked specifically for costs for costs for demolition?
Yes. And so I did get a phone call after our walkthrough, but before this meeting. And I think I indicated to a group when we were in the building that without that survey to really give us an idea of if there are hazardous materials, I told them, just give me a number, ballpark, if it was clean, if there was nothing that you needed to abate. And we're pretty certain that the roof probably has asbestos, so they factored that in. It would be deconstruction to divert as much from the landfill and fill in the basement. Basically, we wanted to fill into grade level. It was $100,000.
Oh,
and so if we tack in any abatement, and it could, that part would depend on what we find.
You're talking about the red building?
No, we're talking about the Baker, the old Baker.
Demolish that one, yeah.
No, but we wanted.
There's been a request for an estimate of what that would be. So.
We had asked for that.
Yeah. I'd also be interested to know what the appraisal was on the red house.
Yeah, and I know that happened, Jay. Well, I don't know if he did an appraisal, but I think he did an estimate of what that should be. It's probably a couple of years old.
Well, we'll certainly have this on the next agenda. Unless you folks want to do another special meeting. I was kind of hoping maybe do special meetings every other month, but I'll take advice from you, what you want to do.
Amanda has her hand up.
Yes, Amanda.
Just as an aside, Randy mentioned getting rid of or selling the equipment in those buildings. We do have a reuse policy that is old and hopefully being revised very soon here or in the next couple months. So hopefully it will be more up to date. So I'm not sure. Anyway, just throwing it out there that that's on the policy radar about how to deal with old materials. So
it wasn't a lot of valuable stuff, Amanda. It's just stuff.
that's fine.
Right.
That's fine. We still have a policy about it.
We should still look at that, right? Maybe we can get a copy of that for the next agenda, just so we have it. And
Okay.
thanks for reminding us that.
To your question, Mike, when and whether to meet, and I'm just trying to think of any milestones we were left with after last month. Were we engaging services with an architect?
Well, Kevin, we're already to move forward with the update on the space study, but we'd like to meet with Holtz before they get too far into it, I would think.
Right, and so I've since I got back beginning of the week, I've already had 2 conversations with Holt. They've already sent over an initial agreement. I reviewed it, and then they made changes, and they sent over late yesterday. So I'm ready to review that and then get approval from the administration to proceed. What I just wanted to confirm is whether the meeting had to occur first before we started any of the work. My sense is no.
I don't think that's the intention, is it? I think we just wanted to make sure everybody's on the same plane at some point.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, they're prepared to meet with the committee whenever that is scheduled.
But to the chair's discretion, if you feel there's enough there for us to gather before the next meeting, gather us.
Well, maybe we can talk on email.
All
adjourned.
Thank you, Katrina. Thank you, Lisa, for being here. I saw Amy up there on listening to us also.